Welcome to the One Day at a Time Recovery Podcast, where my guests share their stories of addiction, how they recovered, and the tools and practices they use to stay sober now.
Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yay! Well, listen, I'm going to try not to fangirl too much. I'm such a nerd. I just got done reading the book not that long ago, and I was confessing that I get probably about 4 or 5 books a week, and so I read a lot. Yeah,
Wait, you have to read that many books per week?
I get that many books per week.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
That slight change in the wording makes it. Oh, okay. I thought you were
Yeah.
doing like a positivity switch. Like I get to read 6 books a week. Like you know how sometimes. Never mind. Just go ahead. Sorry, that's my brain can't comprehend it.
No, that's good. No, people send me lots of books, and I really do my best to read as much as I can. But sometimes I cheat and just read the table of contents and use that as a guide. And
All right. I love the honesty.
yeah, it's kind of embarrassing, but
No,
it's just a lot, right?
No, I couldn't fathom doing it. But knowing my luck with the table of contents, I'd be like, so it looks like at some point you wrestled a Ninja Turtle. And that would be based off the title of the chapter. And they're like, no, that's not what happened at all. How do you know that what you're saying is in the book when you read the table of contents?
So a lot of the people that I get are like experts in like some kind of therapy modality or do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh.
So it's a lot of that.
So it's more scientific, not as much like fantasy type books where you're left to put the pieces
Zero
together.
fantasy,
Okay.
unfortunately. I'm like
Sorry. I mean, that makes sense. Why would you? This isn't like fantasy book podcast.
addiction
Okay.
recovery. Although we
Yeah.
do talk about Game of Thrones quite a bit
Cute.
with certain people.
That's funny.
It's my favorite nighttime story. But yeah, so anyway, I got yours and I started reading and I was like, holy shit, I need more time. So I reached out to your girls. I was like, can we reschedule? I need a little more time. She was like,
Oh.
sure. So we rescheduled and I blew through that book. I couldn't put it down. And there was like a couple of scenes where I was like due for like a client call or I had to be somewhere or something. And I was like late because I had to find out his reaction when we got the pregnancy test. Or like, I was like, what?
Aw.
Yeah, you're a brilliant writer. I just loved it so much. And it sounds like it already hit the #1 on the bestseller list.
In the memoirs and the drug dependency, like certain categories, it hit number
Yeah,
one for a couple of minutes. And I made sure to document it while it was there.
girl's name.
It's
Oh my
very
God.
cool what's happening. I'm very excited.
Yeah, as you should be, because this is a really important piece of early recovery that I don't feel like a lot of people talk about, especially people that I mean, you have such a huge platform, and I just can't imagine what it must have felt like to be like this recovery advocate. You've been so transparent about your journey, and then having to deal with something as difficult as how the book opens, which
Mm,
is you're about to go on stage and you get a text message, and it sounded to me like you knew in your bones
mm.
what was
I
really
knew
going on.
I knew something bad was happening. But the things that it could have possibly been in my mind were not what it was. Like even
Mhm.
my worst case scenario of what could have possibly happened wasn't what actually happened. It just wasn't even an option in my, you know what I mean? In my mind, you know
Yeah.
when things go wrong and someone sends you an ominous message and it's like, hey, something bad's going down, but don't worry about me, babe. It's like, what? What do you mean? What is it? And your mind starts racing, and that's what happened. And I knew it was bad. I just didn't know what it was.
Yeah, I thought the timing of it was really unfortunate. Like you're supposed to go on stage and perform and
Hmm.
to get that just before and then to have to hold your shit together and do your thing.
Yeah.
do a meet and greet and all that stuff with such heavy, heavy news on your heart that I don't even know how you got through that. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was definitely a challenge. Uh,
Yeah.
And especially because um so if you haven't read the book, basically I was backstage getting ready to go out and do a comedy tour with two of my friends, and I got a really weird text from a man, my husband at the time, who was on a bachelor trip in Las Vegas. And I kept asking for clarification and he wouldn't give it to me, and then he was avoiding me and I had to go out on stage, and it was very intense, not knowing what was going on but having to fill 2 hours of comedy and then continue going out on stage after that while your world is falling apart. It was tough.
Yeah. I can imagine. We kind of just jumped into it. Thank you.
I know. I didn't know. Well, I
So
didn't
thank you
want
for
people to be so
clarifying.
confused.
Yeah. Listen, here I am jumping right into it, thinking everybody knows what I'm talking about. Um, I do, before we go too much further into that, I do like to play a little game I call the lightning round, which is actually which,
Fun.
which is actually really slow. But it's just to kind of front load the episode with some resources. So you've been sober 12, 13 years now. How long has it been?
Yes, 12 years. November,
12
it will
years.
be 13.
Wow, congratulations. That's a big deal.
Thank you so
That's
much.
amazing. When you first got sober, was there a book that really helped you in the beginning?
Mm, Um, you know what's, I mean, all the books that they provide in the recovery program that I chose to do were incredibly helpful to me during that time. There wasn't any regular reading materials other than in jail. I read A Million Little Pieces by James Frey, I believe
James
his name is.
Fry. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was really interesting to read about somebody like me while I was in jail. And, all that stuff came out about the book, and where, he made some of it up, but I didn't care. I got the message I needed when I needed it.
Yeah.
And it's really cool how things come full circle. And now, people in jail get to read my stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, it was so funny because I remember when that book came out and he went on Oprah and it was such a huge sensation and there really wasn't anything like it at the time.
Right.
And then he came back on and had to apologize. I
Mhm.
felt so
It's
bad.
so humiliating. But that's why I always try to always, always, always tell the truth any chance I get, like online or in my books or
Yeah.
whatever, because I don't ever want to have that same scenario plays out in my head. You know what I mean? Me doing an apology tour for something that I made up. So I just try to stick as close to the truth as I can. Some things I have to change to protect other people's privacy, but
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, listen, and like you said, that book actually did its job, right? Like people need to
mhm.
see themselves and other people's stories. Hope is hearing other people's experiences. So
Yep.
yeah, sounds like that served its purpose. Do you have like a go-to mantra or quote that you live by that sort of encapsulates your sobriety?
There's two that come to mind, and it sounds like I'm trying to suck up to you, but
Oh,
one day at a time really got me through the beginning, just because it's so simple and it's a go-to. Like, when I got out of rehab, I wanted everything back immediately. I wanted trust back, I wanted my stuff back, my license back, and I was super impatient, and I was wondering why everything wasn't happening immediately, and people had to keep reminding me, like, stop trying to fix your whole life, just take it one day at a time. And the other thing my dad had at one point said to me, because I was panicking about the future or obsessing about the past, and he said, "Look at your feet." He's like, "Where are you? This is the only moment that matters. This is the only moment that's guaranteed. So stressing about stuff in the future and worrying about the past isn't going to be of any help to you in this very moment. So just look at you are where you are when you start to forget and start to panic." And it saved me.
yeah, yeah. Listen, I obviously it's like one of my favorites too, and it's so interesting because I've heard people use the one day at a time, like being able to get through cravings or stressful times. But it's also I love that your perspective is about patience and just being in the present moment. And so it's interesting how many different ways you can use that saying, one day at a time.
With the cravings, for me, it was never one day at a time. It was like 1 hour at a time, one 15-minute span at a time. In the beginning, it was really tough. I just had to remind myself there's a certain amount of minutes in the day. We've already made it through this many minutes, and we never have to go through those minutes of pain or anguish ever again, as long as we keep going.
Beautiful. That beginning part is so tough. Do you have a regular self-care routine? I know a lot of people do like a morning practice or have weekly meetings and stuff they go to. What does that look like for you?
Not good. It's not good. Like, I am not an example of routine or structure of any kind. I don't have anything that I do to care for myself on a regular basis. Usually it's like, oh yeah, I need to take a shower. We got to go do that. Let's go do that. Like, I'm so busy taking care of kids and everything else that but yes, I have a sponsor. I do step work, and I don't attend in-person meetings as much anymore. And all the reasons that I give you is going to be um, sound like an excuse, but I had this experience. I went to a meeting, and um, some girl took a picture of me, I guess, during the meeting. I was like, look who was at my meeting tonight. I tried not to fangirl, and it was sweet and it was kind, but it made me feel like it wasn't a sacred space to me. And so then I found myself getting very self-conscious in these rooms with all these people, and I got really bad social anxiety. And I used that as an excuse to stop going. So I'm trying to work on going to more in-person meetings and stepping out of my comfort zone, but I do a ton of Zoom meetings.
I only do Zoom meetings.
Oh,
I
really?
Yeah, I have no judgment. I've been sober for a long time. I got sober in 94 and I've really enjoyed my community in San Jose, but then I moved and I came out here to Idaho, and I had been hearing for decades that when you move, like they don't do it right. Wherever you go, it
Mm,
doesn't matter, they don't do it right. And yeah, that's really true. It's just wherever you get sober, whatever the format is, whatever that is, that's what feels like home. And then you go somewhere else and everybody does it different and it just doesn't feel right. And I just decided to quit fighting it after a while. And
yeah.
I just do online meetings now. And I just do a team. There's like six of us at the most, six or seven, eight sometimes, maybe four or five some days. And that's good enough. Like,
Are you serious?
yeah,
That sounds like a dream to me. I feel
well,
like I'd
maybe
be
the
so
link.
much more comfortable opening up in a smaller setting like that
Yeah.
than I would
Yeah.
in a big set. I just have, yeah, I just,
You don't have to. Like, so here's the thing. The reason why I ask about people's recovery practice, whether like your self-care practice, whatever that is because everybody is so different. And I would imagine with a schedule like yours, and listen, we have people with moms or healthcare workers that work odd hours. Like everybody's got to be able to figure out how to do it in a way that works for them without
mhm,
any judgment from people are like, oh, you should be doing, you get a lot of shoulds from,
mhm,
certain communities and stuff like that. I just don't buy into it. I figure we got to especially with moms and stuff that are still like trying to take kids to meetings and things like that, if they have
mhm.
babysitting or whatever, we just got to fit it in wherever we can get it in. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't
I
matter.
do, 100%. Anything is
Yeah.
better than nothing, in my opinion. And that's
Yeah.
how it was in the beginning. I would try to take my kids to meetings, and I had two under two. And I spent the whole meeting panicking and stressing and sweating. And I'm like, I'm not even getting anything out of this. But
Yeah.
but it was the effort. I was showing up. I was in a safe place with other people in recovery as opposed to isolating and being alone. It was better than nothing, but still, that's where I was grateful for the Zoom meetings becoming a more normal after 2020. I thought that was
Yeah.
cool.
My son is almost 25, and the very first meeting that I went to, I had to bring him, and we were living in a different town, and a woman came up to me and said, "There's no children allowed here." She
Ooh,
asked me to leave.
that's awkward. In the beginning,
No, I had been sober for a little while, but we had moved, and so I
I've
was in a
never
new.
heard of anyone ever being turned away unless it's like a closed meeting of some kind. But I've never heard about that
Yeah.
being turned away for kids.
Yeah, and he was brand new. Like I was a brand new mom. I didn't have anybody in my neighborhood. I had nobody. So it
Are
wasn't like
you
I could,
serious? And they said you can't have your
a
baby in a
woman,
carrier?
a woman came up to me and said, "There's no children allowed here." And I'm like, it's not like he's going to get up and walk around. Like
Oh my
and I sat by
God.
the door thinking if he pops off, I'm just gonna bail.
Oh man. I mean, I'm sure
It
most
was fucked
people
up.
listening know this, but like not everybody feels that way. If you have a kid and you want to go to a meeting, like go to a damn meeting and bring your kid
Yeah,
and try.
yeah,
Like I truly believe nobody should be turned away if they're there to be
yeah.
a part of it.
And listen,
That's shocking.
that was an outlier. I'm a huge 12-step advocate, right? I've been going to meetings for 31 years. I'm a huge advocate, and I was well aware. And I didn't stop going after that,
Yeah,
right? I was
good,
like,
good.
these people are fucked off. I'm gonna find a different meeting. I was like, fuck you guys, I'm out. Like,
Because you
if that's,
knew by then, though, right? That
I
wasn't
did. I wasn't
normal.
new.
Imagine if you were, though.
Yeah,
Imagine if you finally got the courage to go to your first meeting and,
I
loaded
know.
up the baby and they were like, no. Ugh, that would mess me up. I think out of spite, I would be like, F this and never go
I know,
back.
right? Yeah, I've heard some bad stories. I wrote a whole, I don't know if you can see it. I wrote a book about, it's a 12-step guide for skeptics, but it's like, here's some things you need to know going in. And
Wait,
I think we talked about it. I was going to send it to you.
we did. Okay, when did we talk about this? That just sounded so familiar to me. I was like, wait, I just talked to somebody who wrote a book
That was
like that.
me.
Oh my gosh, what a jerk. Did we have a meeting? My
Yeah.
brain is
No, you're
it's
good. I know
so
you talked to a
embarrassing.
bazillion people.
I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. Yes, I
No, you're
remember you
fine.
telling me about this and I loved the idea of it.
Yeah, it's to clear up misconceptions and including that there is no one meeting or one person that represents the entire organization. And if you go to one meeting and they're assholes, you should go to a different one.
Wait, I just want to clarify. I just sat here and made sure to tell your audience, hey guys, listen, let me tell you a little something about meetings. That's not what it really is, okay? Trust me. I know. And you wrote a whole ass book about meetings and the different kinds of meetings and how that's so
Yeah,
embarrassing and I apologize for coming on
no
your
worries, no
podcast.
worries.
Actually,
No,
you were so nice about it too. You could have
what
very
can I
easily
say?
been like, thank you for mentioning it. That's actually my life's work. That's what I do for a living. Like you could have easily humbled me and you didn't. And I appreciate that.
Yes, well, yes, that's not my get down. I'm not trying to trying to make
So
anyone
funny.
feel bad. Yeah, and the one of the first things I do in the book is to separate that the people and the steps are two separate things, like meetings and the people. The program is in the steps. So I hear people say, "Oh, I went to AA and it didn't work for me." And I said, "Do you do this? Did you do the steps?" No. And I'm like, "Well,
Mm, you
then what are we talking about here? You didn't do
right,
it.
right,
So you can't tell me it didn't work for you if you didn't actually do it, right?"
right. I agree. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, it's all encompassing. It's like going to, if there, I, and maybe this is a unfair comparison, but I think that a lot of times, in addition to just medicine for an ailment or something. You need some kind of additional exercise or additional
Yeah.
treatment and work that goes into it. And so I think it's the same thing with recovery. You can't have one piece. I mean, you can, of course. There's people who have gone to jail and gotten sober
Yeah.
and that been enough. There's people who've gone to church, as you know,
Yeah.
because you wrote a whole book about all the different ways that people get
I
sober.
actually did not include church.
Okay, well, that's probably smart.
Yeah, because I went to church, didn't work for me.
Right, right. That's
You're with the church.
absolutely.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to make this about my book. I want to talk
No, I
about your
love
book.
it. I think that's
Yeah,
interesting and I think that's helpful and that sounds like something that's so needed. It's always been one of my biggest fears with my platform that I am going to say something that steers someone away from
yeah,
potentially life-saving help. So I don't even get into specifics usually like on my own
yeah.
page about the program and the things that I do just because I don't want people to think this is it, this is the answer. To me it's find what works for you and do that. I'll never tell anybody, they're doing it wrong as long as they're on the right track and they're trying.
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of, I think this is funny to say it this way, but I'm kind of recovery promiscuous. Like, I like to try all the things.
I love that.
Yeah, I don't see any reason not to do it. Like, I'm not saying that's the the only way. I'm not saying to do this and nothing else. Like, I'm an and girl, like 12 steps and yoga, 12 steps and therapy, yoga
Mm,
and 12 steps and therapy, stand on your head for 5 hours. I don't know. Like, I don't care. Like, the only thing I know for sure is I don't know what's right for anybody else, but I'm like, this is like the 12 steps are an amazing experience. And yeah,
mhm.
it's not perfect. There's some things you need to know going in. But once you have your guardrails, like how did you feel about it? Did you feel like it was a transformative experience?
Oh yeah, I've done the 12 steps numerous times and
Yeah.
I every time it's different. Every time I'm
Yeah.
a different person, I've got a
Yeah.
different outlook. And to me, it was like taking a college course in myself. It was the first time I ever had to look inside with a microscope at all the dark parts that I kept hidden for so long and examine them and pull them out and bring them to the light. And I never would have had that opportunity if it hadn't been for the steps. I'm going through the steps again with a new sponsor, and I'm actually doing the steps on it. What like my first step wasn't on food this time. I mean, wasn't on
Mhm.
my drug of choice. It was about food because I couldn't apply it. Like
Yeah.
that's what I'm currently struggling with is the food aspect of it. That's the only thing at the moment that I'm powerless over, and my life has become unmanageable. But I'm still so desperate to go through the steps that I'm like, I'm going to do it, even though it doesn't apply to drugs right now. I know when it gets to step 4 and all those big ones that it'll help me with my addiction and where I'm at and my resentments. Because you've been sober for a really long time. And I don't know if you've had experiences like this, but when you drift away from the program or from the fellowship,
Mm.
me personally, I'm like, why does everything suck? Why is life so hard? Why do I always get the short end of the stick? And, I get in these pity party modes where I'm this victim and I'm like, why is the world so dark? And it's like, oh, yeah, because all of those beautiful blessings that I gained in the beginning of my recovery when my heart was full of gratitude is now clouded with this pessimistic attitude. So when I switch into the gratitude and remind myself, it helps so much.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, I mean, environment is a lot. That's why I kept going to meetings for so long because I
Hmm.
wanted, and to be fair, it was like a easy, convenient place because I needed to do service. I knew that that was like a great way to build my self-esteem. So you go to meetings, and there's plenty of service, right? You get to see all my
Hmm.
girlfriends and give everybody hugs and kind of catch up and they would give me an opportunity to share what was really going on. Like you talked about honesty earlier, and it was like, yeah, it's a place, and I'm sorry that happened to you at a meeting where someone did that. But the good, like if you do go to a safe meeting, like that's where you get to be honest and transparent and just say all the ugly things. Like, I don't want to be
Hmm.
here. I have all these dark thoughts, like whatever it is, it's fine, but it's just getting it out. Um, you know, so yeah,
Yeah, when I first started going to meetings, I would raise my hand and be like, I don't really know what I'm going to say, but my sponsor said I had to share tonight. And so this is me sharing. And even just the act of putting myself out there in front of other people got me comfortable with talking. And then eventually I did end up sharing the big stuff. And
yeah,
they know what's best. The people who've come before us and who've done this before us always, you know, that's where I go to look for
yeah.
my light is somebody who's done it before who knows the way out.
Yeah, somebody who's done it before that knows the way out. Yeah. And I love that you're applying the principles to food. I'm applying it to like money stuff. Like I'm fine financially, but I'm not in my brain.
Mm,
Like they talk about in the promises, fear of people and financial insecurity. Like when my mother passed away, I got some inheritance, and I just freaked out that I was going to ruin her money.
yep. Yep.
I was like, I'm not this responsible.
I'm so happy to hear that, which is so effed up to say for you. I
Yeah,
apologize.
no, I get it that you're
Um,
relating, which is nice.
I know but like I have this irrational fear that I'm going to lose my money, which is so crazy because I'm so used to not having any all my life. I never had any money. It was always hand me downs and, bare minimum, which is fine. It's all I know. But now that I've got this money, I'm afraid to spend it because I'm afraid I'm
Mhm.
going to ruin it, just like you said.
Yeah,
And I got a trust fund with my mom when she passed, and I knew that I was going to die if I got that money. So I went to rehab. That was what initiated it the first time.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine. Like I was, my mom only passed away like 3 years ago.
Mm.
Also of cancer. Both your parents passed away of cancer, didn't they?
Yes. And all my grandparents and my step parents. How weird is
Wow.
that?
Yeah, that's bizarre. My mom was sick with cancer for 22 days.
Shut the front door.
Yeah, and guess who was in charge, the drug addict, of all her pain meds?
Wow. So
I have an older
crazy.
sister who was like the responsible one, but when it came down to what was really important, I was the one. I was
Mm.
giving her all her pain meds. And do you know what's funny? My brain was like, what are we going to do with all these extra drugs now that she's gone?
Right. My brain, yeah, exactly. I would have been planning that for the whole time. I would have been like I was so bad. When my mom was sick, it was when my addiction first started raging, and I was actually living at the home when she got diagnosed, and it became too, quote unquote, too much for me to deal with. So I moved out. I straight up abandoned this lady during a time when I could have been helpful, but I was like, I can't stand to hear her cough. I can't stand to see her wither away, and I just made it all about me and I moved out, and there's a lot of guilt and shame I had to work through, but we were sick. You know what I mean? We were sick at that
Yeah.
point. And I
Yeah.
tell people all the time, like, I would have stepped on my mother's neck to get drugs if I had to. That's how bad it was. Like, it was horrible.
Yeah.
But I know she wouldn't want me sitting down here feeling guilt and shame. So I try to just put as much good out as I can. But I related to that part of you,
Yeah.
except you were in charge of like the decisions and stuff, or
Yes.
just, ugh.
Yeah. So I had been sober for a long time.
When your
So
mom got sick?
yeah.
Oh, I misunderstood. I thought, duh, 3 years ago. I'm such a dork. I'm bad
Oh,
at
no,
math.
no, no,
I
you're
didn't make
good.
it in
Yeah.
college.
Oh, you're so funny. Which is why you're a comedian. No, so yeah, but it was funny that even after all this time, there was a voice in my head that was
Mm,
very interested and curious about the drugs.
absolutely.
Like I'm giving her liquid morphine all night and all these other like really hardcore
Wow.
drugs. And I was giving her like narcotics in the beginning until she couldn't swallow anymore. And then it was all liquid.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
an amazing, like, I'm sure in that moment though, there was a very cool internal realization. Like, look at me right now.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Because I was definitely the black sheep and the fuck up and getting into
Hmm.
trouble and all that stuff. And I had an older sister who was a straight A student, totally responsible. But in the end, I was the one that she trusted, not my sister.
Well, that is interesting to me, but it makes sense. So you were the black sheep, she was the golden child. Because
Yeah.
in my family it was the opposite. I was the golden child and my sister was the black sheep, but I'm the one
Oh,
who became
really?
an addict and she was the responsible one. Can I ask, just because I'm nosy, what
Yeah.
kind of cancer your mom had?
Well, it started out as breast cancer, but they treated it. It was teeny, teeny, tiny. She did all the treatments, and then it must have been 10 years later that when she had a little bump on the back of her neck and it was causing her pain. And that I watched a doctor palpate it was a fucking brain tumor. It was a tumor in her
No,
spine and it was protruding out the back of her spine. I watched him palpate it and he goes, "Oh, I'm not really worried about this, but I'm going to send you in." Looking back, I was like,
you're
what the fuck? And so when she finally went in for the X-rays, she was already stage 4. She'd metastasized to every organ
no.
in her body, and
Because the tumor had gotten so large by this point, it had been there for a minute and
she
spread.
had it in her bones, in her organs. At the end, they were like little tumors popping up like behind her arm. There was one on her
Unbelievable.
side. It was like at the end, they were just started popping up everywhere. But
Wow,
It was
that's
like, it was like,
crazy.
it was so crazy. But she was having neck pain, but that was because that was the only one that was visible. That was like the everything else in her
Mm,
body wasn't causing her any pain.
right.
So it was only because it had metastasized and it was coming out of the back of her neck that we knew that she had cancer.
That's so sad. I'm so sorry.
Thanks.
I
Yeah, but
was she so 3 years
she was
ago.
almost 77. And I got to tell you, I've never seen, she was like the most positive person that you'd ever want to meet,
Mm.
like irritatingly so. Um, like I could never bring her any of my sadness because she'd skip right over and talk about the bright side,
Really? So she's always looking for the silver lining. That's
which was
sweet.
great. She was like the sparkle in any room that she walked into. She was, yeah, she was so
Oh,
cool. But I forgot what my point was. Oh,
I
menopause.
was so I, I would love to help you, but I am the absolute worst. I get so off track and then I forget my point and I'm like, this is so embarrassing.
I'm supposed to be a professional.
I
It's
have
okay.
to admit that I'm gone and I don't know where we
Yeah.
are. Like it happens every interview I do, every
I
conversation with my
know.
boyfriend,
Every conversation with you.
every single thing.
You
I'm
walk
like,
into rooms and be like, why am I here?
why am I here? And if I was a good active listener, I'd be like, here's exactly where you are. But I went off on a tangent. I
You were
had
right there with me.
I know. Because I was so curious. I was just curious about your mom because my
Yeah.
mom what you were telling me about her age because I was going to
Oh,
ask how old she was, and then you started telling me about how old she was and how she was the sparkle that entered any room and how she would
yeah.
find the silver lining in your stuff. And
Yeah.
it's very sweet. My mom I thought my mom was sick for a short period of time. I thought I was robbed. She was sick for 5 months, but
Oof.
22 days is
Well, she was a badass. As soon as she found out it was stage 4, and she was like, I'm done. I hope it goes quick. She goes, the only thing that she asked of me is don't let me be in pain. And I was like, I
mm,
got you. We got drugs. I
I
got
love
you.
that.
I'll
I
never
love
let you be
that.
in pain. So she just quit eating. She was like, she wasn't
Wow.
afraid. She's like, I'm out.
Did
Love
that
you.
make it easier for you, do you think?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Like I didn't want to see her afraid. Oof,
Right.
that makes me want to cry. Like to
Yeah.
think that my mom, was your mom afraid?
My mom, if she was, she would never let us see it.
Uh, she was the
She
strong, silent type.
she was like not even that. She would fake it for our sake.
Mhm.
So when we got the news that she had cancer, the doctor was like, she can have 15 months if she does no
Oh,
chemo. And if she does chemo, it could be even longer. And then so we're like, so I was like crying and making it an emotional, and my mom was like cracking jokes to make it easier for my sister and I.
is that where you get it from? Your sense of humor?
I would definitely say I get some of it from my mother. When you were talking about your mom, it reminded me a lot of my mom. My mom was such a bright light to people. She was so positive all the time, and
Mhm.
I am not by nature. I'm very like pessimistic. I'm like cloudy Eeyore. Everything sucks. Everything's going to be terrible. If something's going to go wrong, it's going to be the worst thing ever. And she would always have to talk me off the
Catastrophe.
ledge. But my father, such a wackadoodle. Like, admittedly, I can't even, I tried to describe him to people and it sounds like a joke, like I'm describing a cartoon character. Like, he glued AstroTurf all over the outside of his pickup truck and then glued pieces of baby doll arms and legs all over it, as well as farm animal toys. And for no reason on a Wednesday.
He
And
was an
then
artist for no reason on a Wednesday.
yeah, he would paint murals in our home and my mom would get really upset and be like that we are renting this place, Fred. You can't make a paper mache volcano on the roof. He was silly. He was funny. My
He was
parents
an
were very
artist.
cool. And my mom died when I was young, so before I got clean, my father died my father's actually a huge part of the reason why I'm sober today, but me and him got about a year, maybe a little bit more, of sober time together before he
Yeah.
passed away. And I wouldn't trade that little bit of time for the lifetime of in and out that we had had before. Because my father
Mm.
struggled also. And when he showed up at the jail sober and was like, you need to get your life together and get out of here so we could do this as a family, it made
Mm.
me really, really want to change. He's the best. He's so cool.
That's amazing. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Was so in the book, you talk about a story. Did the sequence of events in the book was that really how it went down, where you were at the hospital and you got a call in the middle of the night to
Oh
come
yeah.
back?
When my
That was your,
dad?
yeah, when your dad
Yeah.
passed away.
Yep. Yeah, we were
Yeah.
there and finally we went home because we had been waiting for a long time and they were like,
Mm,
"We'll call you if anything." And but it's okay because I feel like that was his plan. I can imagine he wouldn't want us to be there while he passed away. But I feel, here's the weird thing. Like I'm angry that I've lost all my parents and my grandparents to cancer. If cancer had a face, I would certainly punch it.
mm,
The blessing in that, I guess, is that I had time to mentally wrap my mind around their absence before it
mm,
occurred.
mm.
Whereas so many people, experience the sudden loss of a loved one.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm fortunate to not have experienced yet, with some of my core
Yeah.
people. I don't want to jinx it. I'm trying to word it really carefully because
No.
I have OCD and I'll obsess about
Yeah.
everyone dying. But
There
yeah.
is something about being able to say goodbye. I remember calling my mom's friends. Like she would, she asked me to call some people. So I would call and say and tell them what happened and then
Mhm.
hand the phone over. And I heard the most beautiful conversations. It was like they would talk about the laughs that they shared, the tears that they shared, how they, spent their time together. And it just made it so clear that in the end, it was the love that mattered. Like that was
Mm.
all that mattered.
Yep.
It
Not
was
the money,
beautiful.
not the
No,
it's family and love and connection.
yeah,
And that's what I think about all the time
yeah,
is you can't take anything with you when you go. All you can take are the memories. So,
yeah.
I've been through so much during my recovery. I've been through marriage and divorce and death and birth and all the crazy things, and I'm constantly asking myself, like, why? What is the point? What are we doing? What is the lesson here? And eventually I just gave up and I'm like, I'm just going to go where the wind blows me. I'm just going to
Mhm.
see why I'm here. If there's I feel like our hearts are beating for a reason. There's breath going in and out of our lungs for a reason. There's a reason we are given a second, third, fourth, fifth chance at life. And so I'm going off on a tangent now because I don't know how to end it because I've
Oh,
already
well, I got
started.
questions
Okay,
because
let's do it.
I got some questions because here I am talking about me this whole damn time. But
You have
I was
not, by the way, I just want you to know that I love that it's conversational and it's
yeah,
not
oh
just
God.
about me. I'm so tired of talking about myself.
Which is funny because when I was in my using period, I'd be like, I'm so tired of talking about me. How about you talk about me?
I know it's funny. It's funny because it is my favorite subject,
Right.
myself. But I
I'm
just,
sure, I'm sure, oh my God, you must be telling these same, having to go over the same thing. But we're gonna go over it again
well,
because
I try to switch it up to make it exciting for myself and for anyone who's
pre-
listening. I try to give different, slightly different answers if the questions are similar, but there's always
yeah,
somebody new listening. So I'll keep repeating it in hopes it falls in the right ears.
yeah, it will. Whatever happens, whatever we talk about is what's meant to be. But I was so curious about, man, when you were talking about, so your early recovery, you have a baby and money is tight. And it's like you and your husband really don't really know each other all that well. You don't
Mm.
have a lot of history to like a well to draw from.
So true. It's so
And
true.
then you have all this. When I was reading a part in the book where you have a brand new baby, and I think you might have been pregnant already, or your bonus daughter is going to come live with you. And you're
Hmm.
like, you were already like, how am I going to do this? And then it was like, here's another child. And my heart went out to you because I couldn't imagine, like, it's already too much responsibility
Mm. Yes.
being pissed at him for not helping.
Yeah, it was really wild because I had my son. I got pregnant when we were in a halfway house. Like you mentioned, we hardly knew each other. The whole thing was so awkward and wonderful. And um My son was born, and then when he was 6 months old, I found out I was pregnant again, and then my daughter was born. And a very short period of time after my daughter was born, I found out his daughter from another relationship was coming to live with us. So I went from being single in a halfway house to a married mother of three in less than 2 years, and it was so overwhelming. Trying to keep myself in line is like a job and a half. And now suddenly I'm responsible for three little people. And he was working a lot, trying to keep a roof over our head, trying to support us. And it was that age old thing where he's gone all the time and I'm jealous because I feel like he's driving around listening to rap music, getting in and out of the car without buckling and unbuckling seatbelts. And he's jealous because I get to be home all day, quote unquote, doing nothing. And it's just that battle, that back and forth when it's not evenly distributed, the
Yeah.
jobs between.
The age-old battle. I remember having a brand new baby and I'd be sitting on the couch nursing the baby and he'd go to work and come home and I'd still be on the couch nursing the baby and he's like,
Yeah.
"What did you do today?" Meanwhile, he's commuting and he's working, he's stressed out at
Mhm.
work and he thinks I'm doing nothing. Meanwhile, I'm fucking frazzled because I am
Mhm.
sleep deprived. The baby had
Oh,
been crying all day. I have like nothing left to give. I hadn't been to a meeting in weeks.
you're leaking from weird places probably. It's horrible. I felt like a cow, like with udders that was just being milked and used for sustenance. I did not feel human. I did not know who I was at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think in the book you were talking about how he was going to the gym and he was like in good shape. And
Oh, this son of a gun. Yeah, he took great care of himself, which
yeah, I
good.
think that was one of the things that made me so mad. It seemed like me and all the moms, we are last, but they seem to very easily like go to the gym or take good care of themselves. And here I am sacrificing everything.
Yeah,
It's hard not to be
and
resentful.
I in his exactly, but in his defense, I think a lot of it was my inability to ask for help, my inability to ask for what I wanted.
Yeah.
I'm such a people pleaser. I was so afraid to say, I need help. I'm drowning. I'm not happy because I didn't want him to regret having kids with me. And so
Oh,
and so
yeah.
I was too afraid. But had I said to him, "Hey, I'd like to hang out with you outside of the house sometime, or I'd like to take a drive." I'm sure he would find a way to let me, but I never asked.
That's the thing. I think when you have a baby, like you feel like you have to be in charge. I don't know about you, but like having a
Yep.
tiny little human that suddenly is the center of my world. I had never experienced love like that before. Like
Mhm.
there is nobody that knows this baby better than me. And they say that overprotective mothers were underprotected daughters. And I felt
Mm.
like I was really overcompensating. Did you have some of that experience where you were just like, nobody's going to be able to take care of this baby better than me?
100%. And that was a turning point in our relationship because I would be upset that he didn't take the initiative to pick up the baby more or do more with the baby. I'd be like, it seems like you're not even interested in the baby. And he would say, when I do, you're basically in my ear the whole time, like, don't hold him like that. Don't do this. You got to do this. He likes this. He doesn't like that. Like, I'm making it miserable. And my friend told me at one point, let him be a dad. Just let him be a dad. Let him
Yeah.
figure it out. Let him fumble through it. So that really helped me relinquish control. But yeah, I was the one who woke up with the baby in the middle of the night because he had a job at the time. So I felt like, okay, he has to work. He has to be rested. So this is my job. And I was exhausted and sleep deprived and a zombie and a monster.
When did you realize that like what was happening to you wasn't normal? The
Um,
anxiety or
the postpartum depression,
yeah.
it was when almost immediately I knew something was off because the birth of my daughter was so different from the birth of my son. I had felt such a unique bond with him from the beginning that by the time he came out, I loved him so much. And with my daughter, unfortunately, my experience was a little bit different. I had gestational diabetes. I had like
Mm.
group B. I had all this weird stuff happening. So the pregnancy itself was tough. And then when she was born with dairy allergy, colic, and acid reflux, which I didn't know at the time. And so she would just scream from sun up to sundown. And,
Oh
you
my
know,
God.
no matter how good of a mom you are or how good of a mom you want to be, if something is screaming at you from sun up to sundown, it makes it incredibly difficult to bond. And so from the beginning, the bond wasn't the same. And it was like I was questioning it. And then it got to a point where I resented her for existing. And then it got to a point where I resented both of them for existing. And I didn't want to be their mother anymore. And I was scared to go to bed at night because it meant I would have to wake up and take care of them the next day. And I dreaded that. And that
Yeah.
was when I knew these thoughts can't be normal. I would look at my friends and they all seemed so happy with their new babies and their new life. And I couldn't relate, but I was too afraid to say anything because I didn't want anyone to take the kids from me.
Yeah.
And so it's very tricky. And I worry that that keeps a lot of people in that sickness for longer. And the truth is, there is help available. It doesn't have to be like that. And asking for help during that time instead of faking my kidnapping, which was my plan, um, changed my life and changed
Yeah.
my kids' lives.
Yeah. I just can't imagine. I had moments where my son would, they do that occasionally, even if they don't have acid reflux and all that stuff. And it will take you to the brink,
Mm,
take you
mm.
to the brink, and you're standing at the abyss and you're like, should I jump? It's like,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
dark.
it gets dark.
Yeah, when you're not, when you're sleep deprived, when you feel invisible and underappreciated and
Oof.
exhausted, it can be really dark. And when you realize how truly powerless you are over this other little person, a-
Yeah.
and you can't make them stop crying, even if you're exhausted, that's another thing that you have to cope with as somebody who's used to being in control or thinking that they're in control. Giving up that power also was tough for me.
Yeah, yeah. So you ended up going to a doctor and they diagnosed your daughter and she got different food. Did she have medication as well to deal with the acid reflux and all that?
Yeah, I think there was medication involved, but also I got help for my daughter, but I also got help for myself,
Yeah.
which was super crucial. It was really great. I started therapy and I started medicine and I started feeling better. I started feeling hopeful, and then I eventually started feeling attached to her. I could feel it
Oh,
happening. Like she would smile, and I hadn't seen her smile for months. She'd never smiled because she was always
wow.
upset, understandably.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she started smiling, and I'm like, there you are.
Mm,
And I was smiling too, and we were healing together.
yeah. It sounded like both together, like she was healing and you were healing. And then, that sounded just like a huge relief.
And thank goodness, because she, I was going to need to like her in order to survive motherhood, because this child is,
Yes.
I believe my mother sent her. My mother's like, here you go. Don't say. Now you know. She's the light of my life. She's one of my favorite human beings. I'm actually obsessed with her. Like I look at her and I'm like, I love you so freaking much. I just want to squeeze your face off of your neck. I can't handle it. She's so funny.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying and it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's terrifying because I too felt like I had to use humor to make friends and stuff when I was little, and it made me a really weird kid. And I know what's coming for her, and it's going to be beautiful and amazing eventually, but she's going to have some hard times to get through, but I think that's all kids.
Yeah.
I just
That's
want
how it
to keep
is. I mean, I don't know anybody who doesn't escape childhood without some issues.
no, that's right. That
They
is
turn
true.
into your superpowers later.
Exactly.
Let's talk a little bit about your husband's relapse. Did you tell him you were going to put that in the book? Like, did you have a discussion? Like, he knew it was coming, that was going to be in the book?
Absolutely. Yep. The thing that's so unfortunate about this whole thing is I never wanted to write about that. I never
I
wanted to
know.
have to. It was never part of it. I've had this book deal for years. This book was supposed to be about, and it's not his fault. I don't want anybody blaming him or anything, but it was supposed to be about like two addicts living happily ever after, beating the odds and surviving.
Right, right, right,
and,
right.
and then I had submitted the manuscript and all of this happened. So I had to ask for the manuscript back because I couldn't let them publish something
Right.
that was no longer true. So I had a conversation. I'm like, listen, I don't want the world to know what happened. I don't. And it
Yeah.
sucks. And I tried to keep it under wraps for years on the internet.
Yeah.
I tried not to make a big deal about it. I didn't capitalize on it, monetize it because I didn't want to deal with the drama and I didn't want to mess my kids up.
Yeah.
And so with this, I had conversations with him and let him know, listen, I don't want to do this. I have to tell
You have to
people
say something.
I have to say something, and I'm not going to paint. I'm going to try to paint you in the truest light that I can, which is, you're a great person. You made a mistake.
Yeah.
I didn't go into details about it because none of that matters, to the main story. But yeah, it was very tricky to have to write about something that you didn't want to write about, and then to have to.
Yeah.
But it was important to me because I knew that there's other people going through it. There's other people experiencing betrayal and divorce
Yeah.
and starting over, at 38 years old, starting all the way over, trying to figure out how to live without your person, trying to figure out how to raise kids and then not have them half the time. It's so weird and so
Yeah.
trippy and so new to me that even in writing it, it's like, I don't know how to write this because I don't have answers for people. I'm still in survival mode myself. And so I
Yeah.
kind of just wrote it in a super honest way. Like, I don't know what the F's going on, but I'm trying and I'm not getting high and I'm not getting drunk. And that's the best I can do right now.
I found that you were really respectful and also honest. I had, there's that saying, honesty without compassion is cruelty, right?
I,
And so, and you have children, yeah, but you were able to say what really happened without giving any salacious details, which I really appreciated. I mean, I was like, hey, when we pause this, will you tell me what the text messages said?
I know.
Because I was like, what did the text say? But I mean, it was pretty clear. It
I
was pretty clear.
know. I know. I couldn't do it. And
Well, I'm glad you didn't, because that's
yeah.
not. You're a woman of integrity.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
aware that this is your children's father, that,
Mm.
and we're human, and we all make mistakes, and men make a lot of very typical mistakes. Anyway, whatever. Is that a nice way to say? Lord have mercy on my soul.
I'm sorry.
Anyways,
It was great. That was
yeah,
so
you were just very respectful, and I appreciated that you were able to. So yeah, we all know what happened, and
Mhm.
I think one of the things that really got me was, as you said, you lost your person, and then having the kids not all the time. I can't imagine how hard that was. But the story about this woman showing up at your child's birthday party, I was like, seriously, what the fuck, dude? Like, that's no way
Mm.
to introduce.
Mhm.
Is that really how we met her for the first time?
I didn't even meet her that
She
day.
just was like in your orbit.
I was never introduced.
Oh my God.
She was just in the orbit. And, at the time, I will say at the time, it was unbelievably traumatizing to
Yeah.
me. I couldn't believe the audacity. But I've since forgiven
Yeah.
and uh so this is the first time that I've talked about her on a podcast, and I want to be so careful and make sure to stress the fact that while yes, some decision, and again, none of that is her fault. In my opinion, it's him. He knew that his child was having a birthday party. He knew that this was the first event that we were hosting together as a divorced family. Like, he could have been like, hey, I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Maybe just don't come today. But
Mhm.
he didn't. So no ill will towards her. Although in the beginning, I was very much like, how am I supposed to ever respect a woman who would willingly pretend like she didn't know you at your kid's birthday party just to be near you. But then I realized I had no choice but to try to like her if she was going to be a part of my kid's life. I had to. I had to
Yeah,
find a way to like her in order for me to survive. And so we ended up going to lunch together.
you
Uh,
did.
oh, yeah. She very graciously accepted my invitation. And we sat and we talked. And by the end of it, we were friends. She came over the next day and we ended up talking more than him and I did. She's great.
Are they still together?
I
That not a question you want. You don't have to answer
I
that.
don't know. This is new for me. I really don't want to talk too much about their life because it's not my business. You know what I mean? Like
Good for you.
it's not
Yeah.
my place to talk about them specifically. And
Yeah.
I think I'd feel better just maybe not. And it's not that
Yeah.
the people pleaser in me hates everything about this. And I want to make sure that you know that your question wasn't out of line. It was a very good question. You were
Well, I just
trying to
know that
get
everyone's where I was going with that was like, oh, do you guys all hang out?
yes. So totally answer.
Okay, okay,
Yes.
okay. Sorry, I should have been
Yes.
clear.
No, that's okay. That's I mean that one goes with the other. So I guess and this is new for me and thank you for letting me exercise my public
Yeah,
facing
please.
vernacular that I want to use going forward
Yes.
with people. So
Yes.
I think um what I'll say is I support them in their relationship. I support her, and I will always wish nothing for the best for him. You know, he's the father of my kids, and
Yeah.
I will always, always cheer for him. We co-parent amazingly.
Oh, that's so good.
He lives like right down the road from me.
Nice.
We pick if he has something going on, I'll gladly take the kids. If I have something going on, he'll gladly take the kids. It's a gift and a dream. And truthfully, our marriage falling apart wasn't all because of choices that he made. I think that him and I kind of jumped the gun from the get go, never really had an opportunity to get to know each other before creating this family. Got lucky for 10 years and somehow made it work. But I think deep down, and definitely in hindsight, I can see that we were never meant to be
Hmm.
together till the end. And I knew that, but I was willing, I think, to settle for the sake of keeping the family together. So when there
Yeah.
was kind of like a reason
Hmm.
that I couldn't work towards, it was the thing that kind of pushed us apart. But it ended up being the way things were meant to be. And I'm so
Yeah.
unbelievably happy now. And I feel like I feel really blessed. And I feel like all of that darkness that I went through at the end was so that I could get to where I was meant to be. And that's where I am today. I've learned so much about myself and I've found a partner who treats me like a goddess. And I'm like, this is what love is. I never knew. I never knew what love is until now.
Wow. That's so beautiful.
Yeah. Thank
It was,
you.
I feel like, yeah, that, the moral of the story is it's like whatever happens is supposed to happen. And it seems like the hardest things that happen, there's usually like some kind of, I hate to be the silver lining girl, but the truth of the matter
I
is,
wonder where you get it from.
and I told you too much. Yeah. But like my side note, my son and his girlfriend broke up and he started going to therapy.
Oh,
And
good guy.
yeah, he's a good dude. He's almost 25 and I almost feel like and I told him, had that not happened, you wouldn't have gone to therapy and you wouldn't be learning about like you wouldn't have gone to the depths that you're going to now had this not
Hmm.
happened. Right. So it feels like, in the grand scheme of things, like even the most challenging people in your lives, it could be like a fucked up boss or, a friendship that doesn't work. Like even the most painful separations, they cause us to go inward. And because you have the practice of 12 steps, like self examination, what is my part? Where did this come
Hmm.
from? It's like a new layer gets healed,
Hmm.
right?
Oh
And
yeah.
we're like better people because of it.
Oh, I've always said that, and not in a horn tooty way, but people who go through recovery, who go through the 12 steps or go through a program and do the internal work and examination and growth and humble themselves, I feel like we come out the other side better than we would have had we never entered all of those terrible things,
Yeah.
because we do the work. And that's a
Yeah.
lot. And I'm not saying we're better than anybody or anything like that, but I
We
think
are maybe a
most
little bit.
toot toot, but most for the most part, like regular human beings aren't forced to go through a crash course in themselves. They're not forced,
Yeah.
like with their head down, to stare, their head being held down to stare at all of their character defects, and you don't really have that opportunity in regular life.
Yeah.
And I do think I like to think I'm incredibly emotionally intelligent, and it's 100% because of recovery. Prior to this, I was right. I knew everything. Everybody else sucked, and my temper tantrums were all valid. Everybody else was just dumb.
Everybody else is just yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like there's a lot of that going on in the world today. But I don't know about you, but like people kind of rail against this word now, like in social media and stuff. Like I'm sure you see it all when it comes to social media stuff. And I know people ask you about recovery all the time. People really rail against the word alcoholic, but it's weird how
Oh,
like,
they do?
oh, you don't know that? Oh yeah.
Oh
The
shit. I've been
top
saying it.
top three things. No, keep saying it because I feel like my perspective is that we can change the meaning of words. Like to me, the word, like someone's like, oh, I don't want to use the word alcoholic. It's a shame label. And I was like, is it? Because the people that I know that use that word have the courage to do the self-examination. They have the willingness to actually make amends, clean up their side of the street, try to make things right. It requires so much courage. So to me, that word is like, oh, that person's a badass.
Oh, yeah. That's what I mean. I That's what I think too. There's no shame in it, like with
Yeah.
addict or alcohol. And maybe I take things to the extreme. Like
Hmm.
I make things so awkward when we're out to dinner and they're like, "Can I interest you in some champagne?" Like instead of just being like, "No, thank you." You know what I mean? I'm like, "No, thank you. I'm an alcoholic. I'll go to," like I just make it so weird and makes everyone so uncomfortable. But there's just no, it's true. I'm an
Yeah.
alcoholic. If you give me a sip, I will not stop till I'm in a ditch with no clothes on fighting earthworms. Like
Oh,
I'm obnoxious and I have
yeah.
no off switch.
No off switch.
But I didn't know that we weren't supposed to say that because
No,
I've
no,
been
no. I'm not saying we're not
okay.
supposed to say that.
I'll research it.
I'm saying we should say it more to sort of destigmatize it.
I thought we were there.
People are so funny. People are so funny that, and I get it. I
So
get
who are the
that.
people that don't like it? Alcoholics themselves or
So
al-
there's a whole camp of people that are really anti 12 step.
people
Like,
who are have
yeah.
what do we call it? The ailment that we have.
Well, some people say alcohol use disorder. Some people
Okay, so it's like
say,
substance use disorder, but for
yeah,
alcohol
yeah,
use
yeah.
disorder.
So
Okay.
people say all kinds of things, which is, hey, listen, I don't know. Like again, like I don't know what's right for anybody else. Like I just don't. I have learned to sort of redefine what certain words mean. Like God means, I learned to redefine. They say if you have a problem with God, you probably have a problem with someone else's God.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And,
I
and
agree.
so, yeah. And so I'm like, oh, well, that's about redefining the word. The same thing
Mhm,
with alcoholic. It's like, oh, we can redefine the word. And to me, it's somebody who's a badass, right? To me, it's somebody who
mhm.
has submitted to this process and
Absolutely.
or someone who's willing to break their own denial in a myriad of ways. Because that's what really what the 12 steps does is it breaks your denial in all kinds of areas. And people want to get the transformation with their current belief system. That's not how that works.
Interesting. I wonder if it's sorry, go ahead. It looked like
No,
you were
you
gonna
go
say
ahead. What
something
were you
else.
thinking?
Well, I was thinking about this in general. Like, I guess it depends on who is calling who an alcoholic, whether or not there's a negative connotation. Because if I'm calling myself
Yeah.
an alcoholic, like of that means that I've been through the trenches. I've acknowledged it and hopefully I've done the work. If I'm so easily giving me if you're referring to your neighbor who's like, you know, out in the yard yelling at his kids all the time and you're like, my neighbor's an alcoholic, then it paints a picture automatically in your head of there's, this disheveled person trundling around the yard. But if somebody's calling themselves an alcoholic, I don't know. I have to think about this.
Yeah, so there are certain people, I'm not going to name any names because I don't want to give them any attention, but there are certain people who make their coaching careers off of hating on AA basically, or 12 steps in general. They make their entire career about that.
Oh, okay.
And it saddens me to see all these people like, oh yeah, that like this one girl was talking about, she went to a meeting and this lady was like, oh, give me your number, we'll trade numbers. And she felt like affronted by that in some way. And she was so triggered that she went home and drank. And I was like, well, that wasn't because of the AA meeting,
That's because
because
you weren't.
how did you explain the time you drank all those other times before you had never, like it wasn't, so what's the common
Mm-hmm.
denominator here? It's like maybe it's you. I don't know.
Right. Right.
But not to be a dick, but I
No.
try to be compassionate, but it's anyways, there's a lot of people who are not accustomed to having to confront their own areas that need healing, and it's so easy to just be like, hey, those people are crazy. I like this one gal was like, I'm not going to label myself that because I'm more than that. And I'm like, nobody said you weren't.
Mm,
Like we could be all these other things in addition to it. It's not the only thing, it's not the defining thing, but it's a
mm.
thing.
Right. Right. It is a part of you. I don't know. I feel like, listen, if somebody doesn't want to call themselves that, I don't care.
Who cares?
Yeah, I'm gonna refer to myself in that way because it is true and it will always be true
Yeah,
about me. And it
same.
doesn't have to necessarily be about drugs. It doesn't necessarily have to be if it is something that makes me feel good, whether it's a person or food or activity, whatever it is, I cannot stop on my own
Yeah,
and I need help. And
yeah,
it is what it is. And I know
yeah.
that about myself and I keep that at the forefront and I acknowledge it for what it is because the moment I forget is the moment I lose everything.
Yeah, then those sneaky little thoughts come in like, oh, maybe that was a long time ago. I've done a lot of work since then. Maybe one would be okay.
Hmm. Yep, absolutely. But I know because I know how I am around cake. Like I know that it's not gonna work. I already know. Just
Yeah.
look at how I am at a buffet. There's
Yeah.
no way I still can't control it. I still can't control it. So whether it's beer or food or whatever,
Yeah.
I still have that desire.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're doing a bunch of other work. I saw that I loved your the video that you did about what you took a year off of TikTok and you did exposure therapy and you lost a bunch of weight and had all these big life events. What was exposure therapy like? Was that super helpful?
It it was one of the most traumatizing things I've ever done, but it was definitely the most healing, like in terms of if it works or not. Like it
Yeah.
healed the issue that I was having. I actually did exposure therapy on camera for a documentary. I recorded every session
Oh my
and
God.
they didn't show all of it, obviously, but it was really dark. It was really tough and I learned throughout the process, I have OCD. I have harm OCD and health OCD,
Okay.
which is, I mean, it's all boils down to anxiety, but I
Right.
have irrational fears
Mm.
about things happening to people that I love.
Yeah.
And which is no surprise because I've lost so many people in my life,
Oh,
but
yeah.
but I also have like a contamination thing, like I can't drink after people or eat after people, so I had to do a lot of really gross, weird stuff and it made me angry and
Yeah.
it was very intense, but my I've gotten really good at being self-aware to a fault. It's exhausting. I'm constantly pointing my shit out and like analyzing myself as I'm talking. I'm like,
Yeah.
so we could go to the store. That suggestion is based on my ability to decide whether, like, I have to give a dissertation about everything I do, like right now,
Like it's actually happening real time.
like as we speak. And I forgot where I was going. Yeah.
Well,
with
listen, that
this.
seems like a good place to land the plane.
Wait, we're gonna land the plane on me being a
I'm just
numbnut.
kidding.
No,
Um, I did want to cover one final thing, which is like you have this huge platform. Did you feel pressured by the like parasocial relationships you have with all these people to have to come out about your like and write this book about how
mhm.
everything went down?
Yeah, that's a great question because uh, if I'm being all the way honest, it has messed me up for years knowing that this book was going to be released. And I I don't know if that's a good thing to mention or not, but it is. I felt like these people have watched my family for years.
Yeah.
They are the reason my family was able to purchase a new home. They're the reason that we're able to pay our bills every month. They have given us so much. So for me to just suddenly become mysterious and take this part away from them and not mention it is something that I battled back and forth about a lot. For the most part, people were respectful, but there are people who genuinely feel like you owe them something and will
Yeah.
guilt you into that. So that was really tough for me. I was really angry that I had to put the book out when I wasn't ready, in my opinion, at the time. But then the
Mm,
closer it got to the release, and the more people who were able to read it and the more
mhm,
reviews that started rolling in, I like cry with relief because I'm like,
mm.
thank goodness this is resonating. It's helping. It makes it so that I didn't have to go through all of this for nothing.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? And so it makes it
Yeah.
worth it. And so all of that fear that I was experiencing about the release, all of the anger that I had towards supporters, people who were in my life. I'm like, how dare you, become such a huge part of my life that now I have to include you in this. Like, it was all really confusing for me.
Yeah, super confusing. It sounds like there I mean people can be so unkind.
Yeah, but the majority of people, I'll tell you what, the majority, 95% of the comments that I get are so unbelievably loving and supportive. It's my
Mm,
own mental stuff that I have to work on that causes me to hone in on the negative ones and ruminate about them and obsess about them. And
yeah.
it's the imposter syndrome that goes, these five people know the truth about you. You've got everybody else fooled. And
Yeah.
that's an internal conversation I have constantly
Yeah.
with
Yeah,
myself.
you know, but that's true for everybody, right? There could be 100 people in a room who like you, and then there's that one asshole who said something off, off color, and we're just like, oh,
Yeah, I'm like, why? Why don't you love me? Why am I not good enough? What is like? Absolutely, that's me. That's me. It's
yeah, me
so
too.
important for me to be liked by everyone, and it's not going to happen ever. I need to get over
Mm-mm.
it. That's what me and my therapist are working on right now. Is my my image of myself and my need
Yeah.
to
Oh, that's
get
huge.
validation. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Doing that self-validation. Man, if you figure that part out, you let me know. That external
Hmm.
validation is rough, I think, for everybody.
I will let you know. We are not there yet.
It's a
Maybe a couple
process.
more sessions. It's been
That's the
5
next
years,
book.
so
That's awesome. Well, listen, huge praise for the book from me. I loved it. People make me read lots of books, but I truly, man, this was like candy, right? There's
oh,
all these other like clinical books, and I love those too. But wow, I ate this one up, read it
that's
very quickly once I got into it, and then I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
thank you so
So,
much. That means the
yeah.
world to me. It really does. Thank you.
Yeah, you're a brilliant writer, and I'm just rooting for you, and I'll look forward to seeing what you put out. Are you going to do a comedy tour anytime soon? Do you have? I couldn't find anything on your website.
Nope, there's nothing planned. Just I've got 2 podcasts I'm doing right now.
That's right.
And
Tiff and Flip, the Tiff and Flip
yeah.
show, and then Take It or Leave It.
Yeah, thank you
Girl, you
for
are
knowing that.
busy.
I am. I'm losing my marbles. I don't
Are
know,
you
but
having
I
fun?
I am having fun-ish. Fun. I'm too old to have fun, I think. I don't know that
Oh,
anything's
don't
fun anymore.
say that.
I know. Well, that's what it is. It's literally the attitude of gratitude. It's when I
Mm.
lose sight of gratitude that I start to be like, this isn't fun. This sucks. But like, I woke
Yeah.
up today, I've got family, I've got a roof over my head. Like, hell
Yeah.
yes, I'm having fun.
Yeah.
You know what I
Kids are
mean? That's what I
fun.
need to say out loud. I need to manifest all the positive feelings because it is true.
Yeah.
My life is incredible. I think just being an adult in general is super lame. Um, a lot of the time, and it's not fun.
Yeah.
But there are glimmers of fun stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Well, listen, it looks like the Tiff and Flip. I saw a couple of those. It sounds like it looks like you guys are having a great time.
We do. He's my
You
best
guys are,
friend's husband. He's hilarious.
yeah, you guys are putting out great content. So love that.
Thank you.
Well, listen, it was such an honor to be able to hang out with
Oh,
you. Congratulations on the book, and I wish you all the best.
thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you, and hopefully we talk again.
I would love that. Thanks.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye.